Joining me today, I've also got my team from Auto Style Marketing. My name is Jesse Stoddard, and this is how Restylers can maximize their lead flow with paid search and Google Ads. I'm really excited about this topic. I also brought my my associate Butter on the line with me. He's my digital ad specialist. Butter, can you say hello? Make sure audio is working.
Yep, we can hear you fine.
Yeah, okay, good. Say hello to everybody too.
Hey guys, nice
Awesome.
to see you all.
All right, good. And we're having a few other people join us. That's fantastic. All right, so let's just dive right into it today. I want to get down to the point. There are a few resources. Before we dive in, I want to share a resource with you. We have a workbook. It delves deeper into everything we're covering today. It's also something that can help you with checklists and examples, and we're going to be providing that link in the chat. If you're watching the recording, that's available with somewhere you can sign up to get that, or we can send it to you. If you have any issues, you can contact us on autostylemarketing.com, and then you can apply the stuff that you learned today. So we're going to have that available for you as well. And Fatima, if you have that link, you could put it in the chat now, just so that we don't forget. That'd be awesome. Here's a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to talk about why paid marketing is the key to scaling your lead flow consistently, especially if you're in the aftermarket automotive accessories installers and restyler space. Notice how long that is. It's because there is no good name for this out in the world of the internet. We know what a restyler is, but the vast majority of people don't know what it is. And so paid ads is, however, they are searching, and we're going to show you that they're searching for keywords that you want to get and that you can create and turn into leads. Then I'll show you what's working right now. We're going to show you what's working in today's market, not outdated strategies, because things have changed fast. We'll look at a real case study where cost per lead dropped from $80 down to 12. And that's an amazingly low amount of money to spend on a paid ad lead, plus some live examples where we're generating anywhere from 5 to 10x return on ad spend. The overall ROI can be much higher if you include your organic and other ways of getting leads. And finally, I'm going to walk you through how to structure your campaigns properly, covering KPIs, tracking, landing pages, and the overall setup. And by the end, you're going to know exactly what to focus on to get better results. So before I move forward, if you can in the chat for me, just type in the number 1 if you're excited to learn more about paid ads and you want to get leads from it. I would love to make sure that our chat's working. Everybody has the ability to do that. Thank you. I see that. All right. Appreciate the 1. Excellent. I appreciate that. That's great. Okay, so you guys can hear me. Everybody's loud and clear and good to go. And by the way, just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to, you can ask questions in the chat at any time, and then I will save time at the end for those. If you've got a burning question, go ahead and put it there, or you can raise your hand and then we'll call on you. It's just nice if nobody comes in and just goes off mute and starts, taking this down a rabbit trail. We just want to make sure we respect everybody's time. So real quick, just a context on who I am, who we are, and why it matters. I'm not just another marketing guy. There's a lot of marketing people out there. We're not just throwing theory at you. Everything we're going to share today is based on working directly with restylers, testing this stuff in real markets, seeing what actually drives the leads and sales. I wrote a book called the Auto Restylers Digital Marketing Playbook. It's really a step-by-step system for getting more leads, landing better jobs, growing without wasting money. I have been involved in SEMA, and I still am. I'm a SEMA Pro Council member. I've spoken at SEMA education sessions. I work closely with shops all over the country. So what you're getting today isn't, here's what might work, here's what we're seeing, right now that's actually working in aftermarket. And that's important because the industry is different. So what works for plumbers or dentists doesn't always translate to restylers. So everything today is tailored specifically to your world. Butter here, I just introduced him. He's gotten a haircut since then, but he still is this handsome gentleman on the screen. He's our paid ad specialist for the past 5 years. His job has been making your hard-earned money worth the spend by making paid ads profitable for your business. Other than that, he's mostly found jumping rope or eating ice cream. Strange combo. So Butter's going to come in a little later, and he's going to take over a certain segment here that he's a specialist in. And when we look at shops around the country, what's working right now, the ones that are growing faster, they're booking out weeks in advance. They're doing higher ticket builds. there's some common patterns, and it's not just about marketing tactics. It's about being visible in the right building, building that authority and your market, marketing yourself and positioning yourself as the obvious choice. So like the shops that you see here in the examples that we use, that we're about to use, and our clients, these businesses are showing up consistently, right? They're showing up in their online, they're showing up with websites, they're showing up in ads, they're showing up in social media, they're showing up in person. So they're investing in their growth, they're staying ahead of the curve. The reason why I throw that out there is because the very best ads program is not going to make up for a lousy business. Like, so if you're falling down everywhere else in your business, paid ads is not going to help you very much. I mean, you've got to be a real legitimate business. And I know everybody on this call is, but it should go without without saying, but I just like to remind everybody, the gap between the shops that get it and the ones that don't, though, is getting wider. And that's what we're seeing. So we are on a mission. We're on a mission to help auto restylers and their customers personalize their vehicles to reflect their unique style. We want to help 1 million customers personalize their vehicles to reflect their unique style within 10 years. And that is a doable goal. And so the only way we win is if our clients and the restylers out there win. So what we want to do is help a lot of restylers, help a lot of people, and make a big, significant impact. And that's our mission. So that's why we're here. All right. Now, where does ads fit in? I want to zoom out just for a second and show you this bigger picture. So this is what we call the accelerated growth model. And it's how shops actually scale consistently. This is what we're seeing, and this is what we're proving. So there's 3 main things that we need to get right away. First, drive leads. So the upper left quadrant of that is driving leads. That's getting more car and truck owners interested in services like tint, PPF, wraps, or accessories. Just even the fact that they don't know what a restyler is yet. Some people don't know what they want to buy because they don't know what's available to them. So a part of that is also awareness. Like, how do we get the awareness out there? Second is maximize the conversion. Okay, that's in the upper right quadrant there. So when someone visits your site or they call you, they actually book, that they actually turn into a real customer instead of just like a tire kicker, right? And then third, on the bottom there, is to optimize your results, which means tracking what's working, lowering your cost per lead over time, and ultimately increasing your return on your ad spend and your return on investment, your ROI. So now around this, we've got different channels like paid ads. So you've got your paid search right here. There's your SEO, and then there's your database, there's your website, all this is important. And they all feed into all these things out here feed into the core areas, which are what create that drive leads, maximize conversion, and optimize your results. Okay. So when you look at it a simpler way, though, there's really just 3 levers in the business. First, to drive the leads. So that's getting people searching for tint, PPF wraps, accessories, truck upfitting, etc., so that they even are finding you at all. And then second, maximize the people that do take a look. So that's where your website, your reviews, how fast you respond. A little thing about reputation. On the last webinar, we talked a lot about these things because of AI, but you have to understand that your reviews will impact how good your conversion is with your ads. People often think, well, I just want to run ads, I'm going to throw money at Google, but they don't have a converting website. They don't have enough reviews, and they don't have high quality. They're not responding to the reviews, and they don't have a way to deal with the leads once they get them. And then they blame the ads. So I never like to assume that people just get this. You have to have these pieces set up in order to maximize your ads. It's not just all about the ad. It's everything around the ad, right? And then optimizing your results, that's knowing the numbers. So what you're spending and what you're getting back. Most shops focus only on getting more leads, but they ignore the other 2. So, and that's where the money gets wasted, right? So when all 3 work together, that's when growth actually becomes predictable. You need all 3 of these things. And our other webinars in this series, which we do right now, we're doing at least like 1 a month. We've been talking about these different things, and you're welcome to watch those recordings and learn more about all that. So this is the step-by-step roadmap. What we have on the screen here is kind of just a visual model. On the left, we've got how you drive the leads. You've got your SEO, you've got your paid ads, which is what we're focusing on today, and you have your database so that you can, we call it client or customer reactivation campaigns, like an old customer trying to get them to come back to buy more, sending them an email, sending them a text, maybe asking for referrals, asking for testimonial. All of those things kind of fit in there into that driving leads category. In the middle, you have conversion. That's your website, your reputation, your follow-up system, right? You've got to have the follow-up system for anybody that goes in. And then the optimization, that's tracking your spend, the cost per lead, the actual ROI, And that's important because most shops, they skip, again, they're going straight to ads. But if your website doesn't convert or you don't follow up fast, you're just paying for the missed opportunity. So today we're mainly focused on paid ads, but inside this complete and full system. So I like to lead most of our webinars with an overview of this. Hopefully that wasn't totally useless for you. It might be review, but it's very important to keep the big picture in before we dive into the exact details of like what to do in an ad. Now, here's another visual. I like visuals. This is a diagram that we call the dominance method or the domination method. We have a domination program, right? The goal is simple. You show up everywhere your customer is looking. Some people call that omnipresence, and it's just to be visible everywhere they might be looking. So whether they're on Google, social media, directories, or even coming back later, which is very common, then you're there, you show up. So you've got your SEO, you've got your paid ads, you've got your retargeting, you've got your social media, your database and the emails and text, all of that's working together. But again, most shops, they're going to rely on just one channel. Maybe they're just all about Instagram. That's really popular right now, by the way. Like everybody's doing reels, but you can't cash likes at the bank, right? Like branding is important. It has a place, but you have to understand that maybe you're old school. A lot of the shops we talk to, they've never spent money on marketing in their lives. They've built their business for the last 20 years on referrals and walking into dealerships. Nothing wrong with that, but the world's changing, and even referrals now are shopping you online. So if all you're doing is relying on that, you're not putting together the whole puzzle that will help you grow. But the shops that really do grow, they dominate multiple touch points, and then their competitors can't even keep up with them. So that's how you stay top of mind and win more jobs consistently. The pay-per-click is what we're about to go into. Retargeting, another form of advertising, the online directories. Concierge services is a service that we call it that, but what it means is really good follow-up. And it means making sure you're tracking every lead. Social media, marketing automation, repeat and referral business and maximizing that. And then of course your SEO, your organic, just being found on the internet without having to pay for ads. All of these things work together to create that competitive advantage. So let's talk about why paid ads is such a big deal. Okay. First, it's fast. Of all those things that I mentioned, they're all great, but paid ads is one of those things where you can get a result quick. You know, it might take 6 to 9 months to really build up your SEO and to see a big difference. And that's a long time to wait. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But the ads, they're like a sprint. So you can start showing up immediately for high intent searches. It doesn't take long. It might take a little, maybe take 30 days to really do all of the testing, right? And to really work the kinks out, but you can see results pretty quick. Second, you show up exactly where customers are already looking. So unlike social media, which is an interruption marketing, in other words, people don't go to Instagram or Facebook to buy a lift kit. Well, maybe they do in Facebook Marketplace, but most of the time they're on social to be social, right? And so when they see your stuff, it's interrupting them and you hope to get their attention, but they didn't go there for it. But if they go to a search engine like Google or Bing, then they're actually looking for something. So that's the major difference, right? They're already looking and they find you. So somebody types in window tint near me or PPF installer, you're right there. Third, you can target very specific services, even without city names. So a lot of people don't think about this, but they can get very specific on the particular promotion or the type of product or service that they want to sell. And the biggest thing is scalability. So if you want more jobs, more installs, more revenue, you can turn the dial up, right? That's something organic alone just can't do, okay? So this is all the paid, how all the paid channels kind of stack together, right? So at the core, you've got paid search just in general. You've got Google ads. Now, local service ads, that's not something that is yet available for most restylers, but we leave it up on this visual because it may be, and you never know when, right? That's like your Google guaranteed, but they only have that for certain business categories, but we're waiting, you never know. And there aren't, right now they have locksmith, you know, they have some that are similar, but not quite there, but we have it up there. It's a potential. And the Google ads are your highest intent traffic. Then you layer in retargeting. Okay, retargeting or remarketing, as some people call it, that's when someone already clicked on your stuff or saw your stuff or visited your website and you show them yet another ad, or and then you follow them around the internet. And that might be in the form of banner ads or what, so on and so forth. So people who didn't book, they still see you later and then they might come back. It's follow-up basically. And then you've got paid social. So over on the left, that was the paid search. Now you got paid social, okay? So that would mostly be Facebook and Instagram. and Meta basically. YouTube is another power player here, okay? And it's just, and maybe TikTok, that's kind of the frontier still, but a lot of people are experimenting with it. That's to stay visible and build demand. It's more of a branding play at this point. It's a lot harder to measure your ROI. We know it works, but we don't always know when and how. That's the problem with paid social, you know? And then finally, directories, okay? Paper lead forms. Now, these are examples of them out there. Obviously, in our industry, we don't use those ones, but we're always looking. And I've got a little surprise that we're actually building a new site specifically for Restylers to get leads. So that's in the works. More about that another time. So again, big picture, and we'll wrap this up here. One more slide. So this is how you think about your structuring your entire marketing stack. At the bottom, you got your organic foundation. Okay, you got your website and your SEO. That always has to be there. You can't have a bunch of paid ads with a website that's slow or it doesn't convert or whatever, right? So on top of that, now you add your paid search, your Google ads, local service ads, if and when they ever become available to you, right? And then, all right, so this is where the highest intent leads come from, right there. And then you've got directories, paper lead forms, other possible places that you might pay for some ads. And then at the top, branding is social ads like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all those. Now, on the side here, this is important right here. You've got retargeting up here and you've got automation running through everything. So no matter where someone comes from, you're following up and staying in front of them, all right? You're always looking for ways to maximize what you're doing out there with the spend. So most shops are going to jump straight to the top, right? They're going to just do Facebook ad or Instagram ad or whatever. But the real growth comes from building it in the right order. You want to build a foundation, then you add your paid search, primarily through Google, some Bing. Then you're going to look for some opportunities on any paid directories that are available. Not a lot in this. So this is actually a skinnier triangle section of the triangle right now, but we're going to fix that hopefully soon. And then social ads is like icing on the cake. So that'd be a really good way to look at it. Now, I am going to turn it over to my paid ad specialist, the dominator of Google Ads, Butter, Jaffer. Butter is going to take it over here. I'm going to stop sharing, Butter, and you can start. We'll just give you a minute to do that.
Sure. So it's finally my turn.
Yeah, I know. He's going to go into a little bit more about the specifics of how we set up campaigns, and he's also going to get into some examples from some Restylers that are seeing success in ads. Let us know if you need help with.
I'm just going to take a quick second to share my screen, and then we can get started. Just let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay. All right, you're up. Yep, we're good. Yeah.
All right. Let's get the ball rolling. All right, guys. So the first thing that you're seeing on the screen is basically a screenshot of Google search. And what you're seeing on the screen is that when somebody searches for truck accessories in Hayward, California, what you see is an ad, right? And this is an ad of one of the Restylers that we are working with that goes by the name of Auto House Automotive Solutions. Now, this is a success story, right? But what actually got us here? Like, how were we able to achieve that? There are some steps that we took which help us achieve this success, right? And that exact blueprint is something that we'll be talking about in a quick second. So I'm going to go to the next slide and we can first cover the basics. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can. Keep going. Good to go.
Okay, awesome. So let's start off with the basics. Paid ads 101. How does Google Ads work in the first place? There's no rocket science behind it. It's super simple. It's super easy. It all boils down to three things, right? Somebody searches for something, let's say for the sake of example, window tint near me, right? Or ceramic tint near me. They see an ad. They click on an ad. It takes them to a website, and then they decide if they actually want to contact that business or not, right? But what determines if your ad will show up on the top or it's going to be your competitor's ad, right? Yes, budget is a very important factor in that, but what's way more important is how aligned and how coordinated these three components of paid ads are. And what are those three components? The specific search terms or keywords in our lingo that people basically search to look for a product, and the ad that they see as a result of that keyword, and the page that they end up on. So if the messaging, if the communication is aligned between these three components, Google Ads will give you something that they call the ad quality score. They'll give you a high ad quality score, which simply means they'll prefer your ad over others, and you'll show up on top, which means you have better visibility, which means you'll have more clicks and ultimately more leads as well. So before we move any further, can I get a thumbs up if you guys understood what the paid ads 101 is? Maybe a quick thumbs up in the comment section. Unfortunately, I can't see any. I hope you guys are giving me a lot of thumbs up.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it. Oh, yeah, we're good.
Okay, awesome, great. So this is basically all that matters when it comes down to Google Ads. You have to aggressively work on these three components in order to succeed. But before we talk about the success blueprint, before we talk about what actually helps you win big on Google Ads, let's first talk about the pitfalls. Let's first talk about what are some of the factors that can lead to a Google Ads campaign that you spend so much money on towards failure, right? The first thing is unable to understand how Google Ads work in the first place. And this is the reason why I actually started off this presentation with the paid ads 101, so that you kind of get a basic idea of like how this entire thing works, right? So you need to have that understanding in order to run Google Ads effectively. The second thing is you need to understand how competitive the market is. And what I mean by that is, suppose if you're running a campaign for window tints, you need to understand how many other competitors are out there, what sort of creatives they are using, what sort of ads they are using, right? What's their overall spend, and relative to that, how much you need to spend in order to outperform them. Another big mistake that people often make is that they would just create a campaign and they would just feed that campaign with any and every keyword of services that they have to offer, right? So it's going to be one generic campaign that will have the keywords related to wraps, window tints, audios, interior, exteriors, you name it. And what happens is when you do that, even Google Ads get confused. Okay, you know what? This specific campaign is targeting so many keywords, and the landing page, the page that they're supposed to end up on, it does not really align with that. So should I even show this ad to people or not? Right? And as a result, you lose visibility and you ultimately fail. So using the same ads and landing pages for everything instead of matching them to what the customer is searching for. So this is pretty much the same thing. Instead of having one generic website, it's very important that when you're running ads, what you're running ads for, your ads should be very specific to that specific product, and the page that you're driving people towards should also be relevant to that. Any thoughts, questions, concerns so far? Can I get some thumbs up? Okay, great. So my ego has been served. Next slide. So not having a strong offer. Okay. So when it comes down to paid ads, it's very, and it's not just about paid ads, but even marketing in general, right? The more offers you have, the more value you have to offer to your customers, the higher the likelihood is for you guys to win. And Google Ads is no different, right? Even on Google Ads, it all boils down to great offers, right? Chances are even your competitors would be doing as good as you're trying to do, right? And when that happens, the only differentiator is how good your offer is. And that determines if you will actually outperform your competitor or not. So those were some quick pitfalls that I wanted to discuss before we talk about the success blueprint. And here's one quick screenshot to help you visualize what I mean when we say we just stack all the keywords together without actually being very strategic about splitting them into different campaigns, right? So suppose you're running one campaign, and inside that campaign, you're actually targeting keywords related to window tint, lift kits, bed covers, spray and bed liners, you name it. And when you do that, what happens is, I'm going to go back a few slides. I'm going to go back to this paid ads 101, right? So if your structure is not clean, and if you have not segmented your keywords based on services, and if you've targeted all keywords at once, what happens is when somebody searches for window tint, Google will see that, hey, you know what, this specific business, yes, they are targeting this keyword, but they're also at the same time targeting lift kits. They're also at the same time targeting bed liners. So I'm not really sure if the ad that they have is actually relevant to what the person is looking for or not. Hence, let's just not prioritize it for now, and let's just prioritize other businesses. So you lose visibility and you lose dollars as well, basically. So these were things that can actually hinder your performance on Google Ads. But now let's talk about what are some of the essential components to make your Google Ads work? The first thing is, when it comes down to Google Ads, now, to be very honest with you, with each passing day, the keywords are getting expensive. These platforms are getting expensive because at the end of the day, even they have to make money, right? And it's a business where they're selling their clicks and they're charging you for that, and they're making their clicks expensive with each passing day. So under such circumstances, it's very important that when you're running Google Ads, make sure that you're running your Google Ads for the high intent, high end services, right? And don't run for those low end services, but because when you do that, chances are the margin is going to be very low. And at the end of the day, even if you end up getting a lot of leads, the numbers won't justify it, and you won't really experience the kind of growth that you anticipated when you started off with Google Ads. So how do we actually structure it in the first place? What is the best way to structure your Google Ads if stacking them all together is not the best foot forward? So what you're seeing right now on the screen is basically how we advise Restylers to structure their PPC campaigns. So for the sake of example, suppose if you want to run a campaign for paint protection film, right? PPFs, make sure in that campaign, you're only targeting keywords that are relative to PPFs. Right? In that campaign, you're not targeting keywords for wraps. You're not targeting keywords for custom upholstery, right? Or seat cover installation. Please avoid that, because when you do that, you know what the consequences are going to be. So make sure that your overall structure is very clean. Each service has its own campaign, and that campaign has keywords related to that specific service, so that when somebody on the internet searches for bed liners near me, Google right away knows that, okay, you know what, out of all the people who are bidding, this is the business that has the most relevant ads to this search term. So let's show this ad to the people so that they can click and get their questions answered. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns before we move forward?
Yeah, I actually have one, Butter. And this is kind of to set you up for a question too, is, we have some of the Restylers have certain things that are more profitable to them. There's certain services, obviously, that have higher margin. And so some of those things, maybe that is a PPF and window tint, but it could also be spray and bed liner. Or it could also be maybe some other service that particular shop knows that is profitable for them. Are you finding that those are any more difficult to advertise for than, let's say, something that wouldn't be as profitable? Or does it matter? Is there more competition? I know that's just kind of a general question, but
yeah, I think that's a great question. Honestly speaking, I think most of the times what people do is, when they're running ads, they don't really focus on these high-end services which are more profitable, and they're just running ads in general, right? And when that happens, yes, the competition is very high, right? Even if you're doing it, like even if you're running ads the same way. However, the best foot forward is for you to actually focus on the high-end services when it comes down to paid ads, right? Because when you focus on these high-end services that are more profitable, like PPFs, as you just mentioned, when you do that, since the profit margin is high, even if it costs you a lot of clicks to get a lead, still at the end of the day, you kind of can make some profit out of your Google Ads campaign. Contrary to you running ads for some low-end services, which a lot of Restylers unfortunately bid for. And I think obviously one of the reasons is they don't really have the awareness of like how to structure the campaigns, right? So when that happens, the competition is obviously very high there. And even if they're able to outperform the competition and they're able to win all the clicks in the world and all the leads in the world, still at the end of the day, at the end of the month, when they see their spend on the ads and when they see how much they were able to make out of it, it does not really make any sense to them. And they just wonder if Google Ads is profitable in the first place. So to sum it up, I think the best approach is to always target the profitable services. Yes, it could be competitive and not competitive, but if you have to play this game of PPC in the first place, the best foot forward is to do it for the high-end services, because the profitability is high there. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and then maybe if you have the budget, you could add additional services after you've already optimized. Okay, great. Yeah,
exactly.
Go ahead and keep going.
Awesome. So let's get back to the first slide once again. So when we started off, we talked about three most important components, which were the keywords, the ad itself, and the page that people land up, right? They land on, right? So we talked about that, how important it is to have a very clean structure to make sure that each service has its own dedicated campaign, and that dedicated campaign has its own dedicated keywords, right? It's equally important to make sure that the page that they end up on, right, when they click on your ad, and the page that they end up on, it's not just another generic page on your website, and it's a page that's specifically created for those keywords, for that specific ad campaign that you're running. Because if you drive traffic towards your general website, once again, there's going to be this message mismatch, right? Because think of it this way. You just search for window bed liners near me. You saw an ad that says, we are local bed liner installers, right? You click on that ad, and then it takes you to a website which is very generic, right? In addition to bed liners, it's talking about all the other services as well. So right then and there, you're basically creating a friction, right? People don't really know where to find that specific service that they're looking for on your website. They would get confused. They will scroll a few pages, and then chances are they might just bounce off, right? And look for another option out there. And we need to avoid that. Why we need to avoid that? Because every click counts, every click you're paying for. So you need to make your dollars worth it. And for that, you have to make sure that you create dedicated pages for paid ads, for those specific campaigns, for their specific services, so that when somebody clicks on your ad, the page that they end up on, that page is specifically talking about that service that you were running ads for, and nothing else. So that you make it easy for people to understand what you're offering, you make the overall experience smooth for them, and then right then and there, they can decide if they want to work with you or not. So now I'm going to give you a quick example as well for you to understand what I mean by that. But before we do that, any questions? Is this concept clear?
I'm writing clear in the chat.
Okay, awesome. Great. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to show you two different pages, and I'm going to show you why one page is better than the other, especially when it comes down to ads. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. It's
Okay,
Auto
great.
House Automotive.
Awesome. So we are carrying forward the example of Auto House Automotive Solution. So what you're seeing right now is basically a very beautiful page on their website for the window tint services, right? Now this page is pretty smooth. It has all the information that you can potentially be providing to your consumers about your window tint services, right? Apparently this page looks great, like it has all the information. But from the paid ads perspective, I won't say that it's a great page. Why? Because number one, as soon as I land on this page, I'm just bombarded with all this information, right? I already know what the importance of high quality window tint is. I don't need to know that. I just need to know what your offer is. I need to know how I can contact you. I need to see your work. I need to know why I should be trusting you. I know what window tints are, what's the difference between ceramic window tint and the other window tint. I already know that. I'm here to actually buy that, right? So I don't need this information from the paid ads perspective, right? So when you're creating a page for paid ads, you have to just skip all this fluff. You have to get rid of all this fluff, and you have to focus on the things, on the components that actually drives the decision-making of the consumer, right? And what are some of those components? You have to make sure that you showcase your work. I just personally feel like Restylers, automotive restyling industry, it's a very visual industry, right? It's less about talking and more about showing your work. So I think the first thing that you have to make sure when you're creating dedicated pages for paid ads is that you're actually showing your work, right? So if it's a window tint page that you've created, show your work, right? Number two, give people reasons to trust you. They should be able to see your reviews online. They should be able to see what other people who have worked with you, what they are saying about you, what they are talking about you. So this is another component that will reduce the friction, and that will build trust on your brand, and that will actually encourage people and propel people to take decision, right? Number three, just give them reasons why work with you, right? Talk about how long you've been serving that specific area. What are your USPs? What actually sets you apart from the competition? Talk about what specific, in the context of window tints, since that's the example we are taking, what sort of window tints you're offering, right? Now, if you look at it, this page number one is a lot more simpler. it's easy to navigate. And number three, I don't really have any distractions as compared to the website. On website, I have a navigation bar. And when I hover over navigation bar, I have a ton of pages that I can choose from, right? So right away, I can get distracted very easily. And when that happens, chances are I just close this page and I just go look for another option out there, right? So we need to avoid that because every click counts. And then
Butter, I'd like to, if I can, I want to interrupt here because you're saying something very important. It's a good reminder. What you're saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when someone is searching and they're doing paid search, they typically are further down in the buyer's journey. They're further along, meaning they're not just searching to like find out what is a window tint or like what is like legal in my area or all that stuff. They've already probably gone through all that. And now they're just looking to because they're in consideration of buying. Exactly. So that's why the page, if I'm correct, you're saying that the page needs to match where they're at in the buyer's journey. And therefore it gets right to the point. Premium window tint in Hayward and surrounding areas installed today by certified experts. I mean, it's very specific ad copy. And the benefit is right there. Protect your car, stay cooler, upgrade your vehicle's look with professional ceramic window tint installed in under 2 hours. So that's all about installing it, getting it done, and then just a couple bullet points, and then it's the call to action with the button to call and the reviews, the review badge, and then a form. It's right there immediately. And then if they scroll down, some people might not even scroll, right? So if they do scroll, then if they're not sure yet, they're going to look and see the trust that you're building by showing examples of the work and other trust factors. But right away at the top of the page, it meets them where they're at. Is that kind of what you're saying?
You got it right. You summed it up really well. Exactly.
And how much of a difference? This is huge. Most people, when they think of Google ads, they think of going to Google ads platform, giving it money and putting in some keywords that they want, and then they're done. What you're saying is, no, that's not even the whole thing. This whole landing page thing is a big deal. How much influence does the landing page have on compared to if you didn't do this, like how big of a difference does it make?
Honestly speaking, it can actually make and break your Google Ads campaign, right? If you don't have these tailor-made landing pages that is addressing the intent of where they're at in the buyer journey at that point in time, and if you have a very generic looking page that's just communicating about what window tints are in the first place. As you just mentioned, people have already consumed that information, and at this point in time, they're actually looking to buy, right? And to buy, they're not interested in that information. They're interested in knowing why they should be trusting you. And if you don't have these dedicated pages, number one, Google itself won't prioritize your ads over the other. Why? Because the keywords that you're targeting are actually high intent keywords, right? They're bottom of funnel keywords. But the landing page, the communication on landing page is actually tailored for people who are actually somewhere in the top of the funnel. And when there's a mismatch, number one, Google will deprioritize your ads over the others, which means eventually the cost per click, the cost that Google will be charging per click on your ad would increase. And even if you end up getting any leads at all, those leads would be way more expensive than they ideally should be. So this gives Google an opportunity to charge you more because that's what they're there for at the end of the day, right? To make money out of your ads. But at
Google
the same
loves
time,
to take everybody's money. That's Google's favorite thing to do.
So if you are giving Google money anyways, make sure that that money is worth it, right? And the best way to do that is to make sure that these landing pages and even the ad copy itself, it tightly aligns with the intent of the searcher at that specific point in time, so that there's a strong message match and your ads are prioritized, and which is why it costs you less per click and it costs you less per lead as well, if that makes sense.
That's great. Just for time, Butter, thanks for answering my question and letting me chime in, but let's keep moving through the rest of the presentation if you can.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen again.
We still have a lot to cover, so let's make sure we hit those a little quicker maybe.
Absolutely. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, so these are basically all such examples that I was talking about, like what makes a landing page stand out. So that quickly moves us to what are some of the most important KPIs that we should be tracking when it comes down to measuring the success of a Google Ads campaign? Now, anybody who's ever got the chance to go inside a Google Ads dashboard, the most intimidating thing inside that dashboard is hundreds of KPIs and hundreds of metrics that you'll see right then and there. And they won't make any sense to you at all, right? So you don't really have to worry about all of them. These are just the 3 to 4 main KPIs that you need to focus on that are the most relevant KPIs to the success of your campaign. The first thing is, of course, is you have to obviously keep a track of how much you're spending on your campaign, right? The second thing that you have to keep a track of is how much it's costing you per click. The third most important thing that you have to keep track of is how many clicks leads to a lead, and as a result, how much that lead costs you, right? And then lastly, based on how much a lead cost you and how many of those leads turned into a sale, what was the overall return on investment, so that at the end of the day, you can compare what the total spend was, what the return on investment was, and was it even profitable in the first place or not. So this was like a quick overview of like what it takes to make a Google Ads campaign successful. There's no rocket science behind it. It all boils down to 3 components: making sure that you're targeting the right keywords, making sure that the ad and the landing page tightly aligns with those keywords in terms of messaging, right? In order to succeed on Google Ads. Now I'm going to show you an example, a case study. One of our clients that goes by the name of Automotive Concepts, when we onboarded them, we actually had a very daunting challenge to overcome, right? Because when we onboarded them, at that point in time, their cost per conversion was $91 per conversion, which means one lead was costing them $91. Now that was a lot. So if one lead, not every lead converts, right? Even if you get 10 leads, chances are maybe 1 or 2 of those leads would convert. And if one lead is costing you $90, you can do the math how much it was costing them in the first place, right? So all we did was it was a challenge for us as well. It was like a trial and error process. But for the next 3 months, we aggressively worked on dialing in on making sure that the keywords, the ad copy, and the landing pages completely dialed in. And because of that hard work of 3 months consecutively, within 3 months, we were actually able to drop that cost per lead from $90 to just $14 a lead. So at this point in time, on April 16, one lead on an average is costing them $14. And not only that, even the number of leads increased as well from 56 to 40 or 140. Why? Because ads were more relevant, people were getting their questions answered, and they were just converting.
Pretty impressive. A lot of work.
Yeah, awesome. So one last thing when it comes down to Google Ads, everything that we talked about would mean absolutely nothing if you're not tracking what needs to be tracked in the first place. So tracking is the most important thing. Before you even spend a single penny on Google Ad, before you plan a single campaign, make sure that the tracking has been set up in the first place, because this too can make or break your Google Ads campaign, right? And what I mean by tracking is, what are the actions that you want people to perform? What is the North Star for you? Do you want people to fill out a website form in order to contact you? Or do you want somebody to call you, right? Regardless of what that mode of communication is, regardless of what that channel is, whether that's a website form or a phone call or a phone call, you have to make sure you're tracking every single one of those form submissions and phone calls. And this is where a lot of not just Restylers, but anybody who's running Google Ads in general, this is one of the biggest and most frequently seen mistake that people make. Knowing that despite the fact that this is the most important component. So first and foremost, make sure that every single form submission is getting tracked and every single phone call is getting tracked, so that you can actually see that the amount of spend the amount of budget that you spend on Google Ads, how much you were able to make out of it. Not only that, but this tracking also helps Google Ads platform itself better understand the kind of people who are more interested in contacting you, and eventually it improves the targeting of Google Ads as well. And eventually you start getting more qualified leads because of this tracking. So tracking definitely is very important. Right keywords, ad copies that match those keywords, landing pages that match those keywords, tracking. These are 4 main components that you need to keep in consideration in order to succeed in Google Ads. Now we have a dashboard in our CRM system that allows us to see a breakdown of like how many leads came in from Google Ads and where they're at in the pipeline. And this is basically what leads us to the second part of this webinar, which was about once the lead comes in, what do we need to do next, right? Now we have the lead. Now somebody has contacted you. Now what do we have to do next? How are we going to sell them? And once we've sold them, how can we keep on selling them, right? How can we stay engaged with them? And this leads us to retargeting and automation. So Jesse, I believe you would want to take over from here.
Yeah, thank you, Butter. That was fantastic information. If you guys can in the chat, just write the number 1 if you got some value out of what Butter just shared. I am going to go. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I am going to do a slide that you went over really quickly here, Butter, just to review for everybody. Structuring pay-per-click campaigns. Butter did a great job of going over this. So here's some key points just to summarize, and then we'll move on. Conversion tracking is a must. He just said that. Every service should have its own campaign. Don't forget about negative keywords. That's what not to target. You have to tell Google what not to. Otherwise, they give you a bunch of bogus clicks. Write ads that sell. So you want what you're offering, your service, why you, and what to do next. Here's what I got. Here's an old copywriting technique. Here's what I got. Here's what it'll do for you. Here's what I want you to do next, right? Keep it simple. Leverage ad extensions. That's where you can add those, phone numbers and other things and make your ad stand out on the page. Use landing pages. That was the big one that Butter went over. Instead of service pages or your home page to land your visitor. The worst thing you can do is have ads and just have them go to your home page. Like that is the biggest waste. And then the last thing is ongoing split testing, tweaking, fine tuning. So those just kind of a summary of the things that Butter was talking about. The retargeting side is something that most shops completely overlook. And that's basically retargeting automation or remarketing. This is what happens after somebody visits the website but doesn't book a call. Okay, so what if Butter does all this stuff and it works and they go to the website, but they don't buy? And the vast majority of people, that's how you behave. They shop online, they go there and they don't check out. They don't buy the thing. They don't call you. So on the left there, that's your site where somebody lands. And then on the right there, that's just kind of a diagram of, just a representation of a system working behind the scenes to follow up automatically. Okay, the reality is that most people, they don't convert on the first visit. They're going to take time. So if you're not following up, you're losing those leads you already paid for. You've got to have automatic responses, text, emails, and alerting your team, your sales team, hey, here's a new lead. You got to follow up, right? And this is how we're going to recover them, and turn them into actual jobs. There needs to be a plan around that. And as much automation as you can do is very, very helpful. And when you see our numbers, like how we get great ROI for our clients, it's not just because we ran a good ad. It's because the whole thing was there, including the automation and the follow-up to make sure we maximize it. Otherwise, I use this analogy. If you're trying to fill a bucket full of water, but the bucket is full of holes, you're going to have to pour in a lot more water faster continuously to fill it because it's dumping out the bottom. So you want to plug up as many of those holes as you can before you just start pouring money down the drain, so to speak, with the ads, right? And here's why this is so important. First, if you don't follow up within about 15 minutes, that lead goes cold. All right. Second, the average customer needs 5 to 7 follow-ups before they actually book. What do you think most shops are doing? They're following up once. And you might be, no, we don't do that. I can't tell you how many times we've had an owner say, no, we follow up. And then we go and actually look because we have the phone records and we actually can check all of these through our systems. And we go, no, your guy called one time and said, hold on, let me get back to you, hung up and never called him again. And you lost the lead. And it happens every day. That's the scary part. That's what we want to help fix too, right? With the automation. So third, today's customer prefers texting over calling or email. They don't really want to call or an email. They just want to text you. Not everybody, but more and more people. And it's not just young people anymore, even the baby boomers, like everybody's texting. So if you're not set up to respond instantly and consistently the minute they hit your page on your website, you're losing deals to faster competitors. So it's not about the Google ad, it's about what you do with that ad, right? And it isn't optional anymore. I used to have a lot of people say, well, we don't want to do that. I'm like, it's not an option. I mean, it's required if you want to compete. So that's a big automation and retargeting. And the retargeting, let me show you how retargeting actually works. So first, step one, somebody visits your site after searching for something like tint or PPF or whatever. Step 2, we drop a tracking pixel. So we have a pixel, there's a pixel basically on the site, and it's a way to recognize who's visiting and whether it was coming from one ad or the other or wherever. Okay, so it knows, it's gathering the intelligence. Step 3, your additional ads, not maybe the same one, maybe a new one, start showing up on other sites they visit. So it could be their news websites, their blogs, or social media. That's like the banner ads. It could show up in their email, and it can also show up, of course, on social media. Everybody's used to seeing the ads on Facebook and Instagram. That's where they show up in all those places. And step 4, they come back and then finally book later. So instead of losing the visitor, which most people do, you stay in front of them until they're ready. You just keep going and going and going. And that's how you increase conversions without increasing your ad spend. So most people just put more and more money in the ads at the top of the funnel, and then they just pray. But what we would rather do is spend a little less up here and save some of it for the retargeting, remarketing ads, because then we can maximize the conversion of those initial people and thereby ultimately save money, even though you had to spend a little extra on the retargeting, right? It's just a smarter way to go. And it's more natural to how human beings actually work. We need a lot of repetition. That's that 5 to 7 times. We got to stay in front of them, the repetition and the recency. So this is what automation could look like. You know, theoretically, yours would differ, but it behind the scenes, every lead that comes in that, you know, calls or fills out a form or messages you or sends a text or instant message, they need to get followed up with automatically. And so you can use instant text messages, reminders, follow-ups for your team. They all happen without your team doing everything manually is the idea, right? So even if you're busy in the shop, you're still responding instantly, and it keeps follow up multiple times, right? So you don't lose leads that needed just a little bit more time. And most of them need a little bit more time than you think, right? And the goal is simple: speed to lead and consistent follow-up. I'm going to say that one more time. That is the message here: speed to lead and consistent follow-up. And that's what turns leads into actual book jobs. So what did you learn today? Thank you for participating. If you want to write something in the chat, like a question, or if you, in fact, let's start with this. Give me a yes in the chat if you got something new that you learned today or some value out of today. All right, just throw something in there for me. Just write yes if you got something out of it. Great, awesome. Okay, thank you. Auto Spa, appreciate it. Maham, thank you, awesome. Aces, very cool, thank you. All right, now what did you learn? What did you notice? And what would you like to share? Now, we have a little bit of time for questions if there are any, or if there's anybody that would like to share. And also the workbook. Remember the workbook link. And Fatima, you can throw that in the chat one more time. I know you already shared it, but share that workbook one more time. Make sure everybody got it. You can use that workbook to go through and actually do assignments to help you in your own campaign. So what did you learn? What did you notice? What would you like to share? And if you want to raise your hand, go ahead. We'll call on you. And if not, I'm going to move on too. So action items. What are your top action items? So what did you learn today that made you go, oh, I need to do something here. I need to take some action. What I've learned in life is that if you do not take action when you learn something new, you didn't really learn it, and it won't stick as well. And you didn't necessarily waste your time, but a lot of people focus on learning just in case learning versus just in time learning, right? Just in case learning is when you're learning everything and you're in analysis paralysis, just in case you ever need it. And that's a very wasteful way to spend your time. I mean, sometimes you do it for fun, maybe if you just like to read, but what is much better is typically just in time learning, which is, hey, I'm ready to do something. I need to learn what I need to learn to get it done. So how can we turn this into just in time, meaning I'm ready to take action, right? So write down in your workbook what your top actions are. If you'd like to share them, you can. That's great. We would love to help you. And again, we do have that workbook. The link is now in the chat. It's how Restylers can maximize their lead flow with paid search Google ads. We also want to make another offer. We do a free ranking report, SEO and ads, full online audits. And we have a free strategy session we include with that. And it's not a pitch. It's all it is, unless you want it to be, but all it is us making sure that we help you the best way we can and point you in the right direction and give you analysis of your visibility, a custom keyword list that's most important keyword search terms for Restylers, a ranking report showing you where you're ranking, analysis of your online directories, listing consistencies, the things I talked about in the beginning, an analysis of your reviews and reputation, your social presence, your website conversion effectiveness, and we can even take a look at your ad account as well. So that is restylers.autostylemarketing.com/schedule-strategy-session. That is a long link. Fatima, maybe you can throw it in the chat too. Or you can just reach out to us. You can reach us at 206-875-2922. You can text, or you can go to autostylemarketing.com and you can ask us. And we have availability right now. We are open to a couple clients. We can't take too many people at a time. We do have a little bit of a bottleneck because there's only so many hours in the day, but we are open to a few more clients right now. And we're offering that free audit as well if you want to just discuss any of this stuff with you. Thank you very much for your time today. Any last questions from anybody out there or comments? Okay, going once. All right, you guys are quiet, but I thank you for participating in the chat. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Going twice. And closed. All right, everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me today. Keep on our list because we're always trying to provide valuable content. We have our podcast, and we also have another webinar scheduled for next month. And we will be going over more cool stuff and whatever's working now. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Take care.